Okay, let's dive in. Imagine like a shortcut to getting really informed on interesting topics, right? With cool facts, maybe a bit of humor.
Yeah, that's what we aim for here in the deep dive.
And today we've got a whole stack of insights really tailored for you. We're looking deep into online entrepreneurship.
Specifically, how creators, people making content, can build an audience and actually scale a profitable business.
Right. And our sources for this, a really fascinating conversation with the co-founders of Stan, that's Hugh and Vitaliy Dovzhanskiy, and also the creator Dan Koe.
These guys have like front row seats. They see how creators are turning skills, passions into actual income.
And Stan, just for context, it's pitched as like the simplest way for creators to start an online business.
Yeah, they've got over 60,000 creators on there, apparently made over, $250 million collectively using it. It's pretty significant.
Definitely. So our mission here is to pull out the really key nuggets, the practical steps from what these guys shared, give you a clear path through all the noise out there.
And what's great about their perspective, I think, is how they cut through a lot of the hype. They focus on foundational stuff, tangible actions.
Drawn from building Stan itself and seeing thousands of creators succeed or maybe fail, too.
Exactly. It helps ground things, takes it out of the abstract.
Totally. And they start right at the beginning. A big message for anyone just thinking about becoming a creator.
Yeah, they basically say it has literally never been easier than right now.
That really stood out.
Me too. They stress it's not about the tech hurdles anymore. Those are like super low now.
It's more a mindset thing.
Exactly. A mindset shift. Believing you actually have value to give and then just, starting.
They called it a permissionless opportunity. I like that.
Yeah. No connections needed, no fancy background, just value.
Okay, so if the barrier isn't tech and it's about finding your value, how do you actually find it? Like, what do you make content about?
Well, they talk about finding that sweet spot, right? The intersection between what you're really passionate about and what you're actually good at. Okay. A good test they suggested is, what would you talk about for free all day long?
The free conversation test. Okay. Anything else?
Another angle is just sharing your own life story organically.
But what if my life isn't, super exciting?
That's the point. It's not about having an extraordinary life. It's about learning to notice the interesting bits in your own life and then talking about them. That makes it interesting to others.
Noticing the interesting bits. Okay.
And sometimes it's just paying attention to what people already seem to look up to you for. That can be a clue.
Right, what others already see in you. Okay, so you found your passion skill area. What's the actual practice? They mention a written formula for success.
Yeah, and it sounds almost like too simple. But they insist this is the core of it.
Which is?
Every single day. Show up and iterate.
Yeah.
Just push yourself to post something.
Every day. Wow.
Every day. And crucially, look at how it performs not as like a personal grade.
Right, not, oh no, it flopped, I'm terrible.
Exactly. Treat it purely as data, as a learning signal. What worked, what didn't. Learn from that. Iterate.
So failure is just feedback.
Precisely. And they're pretty direct about the result of this. If you post every day for a whole year, they basically guarantee you will build an audience.
The whole year?
Yep. And you will start seeing patterns. What resonates, what connects. Then the job is just double down on that.
It's the daily grind that builds the foundation then. Consistency.
Consistency is key. Okay, so moving on to the content itself. How do you make stuff that actually connects, that grabs attention?
Yeah, not just shouting into the void.
Right. And here they make a really important point. Especially when you're starting out, you're fighting algorithms, you're competing with stuff designed to make people feel something.
Okay, not just think something.
Exactly. Purely philosophical or intellectual content. It just takes more work to hook someone emotionally in that fast-scrolling environment.
Right. It's easier to just scroll past an abstract thought than something that makes you, I don't know, laugh or gasp or feel seen.
Precisely. So their advice is, try to be as tangible and concrete as you can.
Make it real.
Make it relatable. Instead of just abstract concepts, link your ideas to simple behavior changes, things people can actually try out.
Give them something actionable.
Yes. Because if those little experiments get them results, even small ones, they'll remember you for that practical help.
That makes a ton of sense. Provide tangible value. And what about storytelling? That came up too, right? Feeling something often connects to stories.
Storytelling is huge. Fundamental, they said. Content that connects. It often comes down to a story. Even a simple framework. A hook. than a personal story.
A personal story.
Huh.
No, can you do that effectively in like a short TikTok or an Instagram caption?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, though. It's not about writing an epic tale. It's figuring out how to tell it effectively, concisely.
Like that quote.
If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter.
That's the one. Yeah. So the conciseness takes real effort.
It really does.
Any practical tips for finding those short, punchy stories?
One angle they suggested is thinking about pain points.
Okay.
Identify a specific problem or pain, maybe one you personally went through,
Right.
and then write the content as if you're talking to your past self who was stuck in that pain.
Writing to your past self. That makes it instantly relatable for anyone else feeling that same thing now.
Exactly. Super tangible.
Okay, got it. Foundation, consistency, tangible content, storytelling now.
Yeah.
What about the audience? Who are we talking to? They pointed out a common mistake creators make.
Yes, a really critical shift in perspective. Moving away from content that's too focused on me, me, me.
Because people scrolling.
Yeah.
They care about themselves, right?
Totally. Their primary focus is themselves, what's in it for them, what speaks to their life, their problems, their interests.
So the skill is learning to talk about your own stuff, your experiences, but in a way that other people see themselves reflected in it.
You nailed it. It's adopting a give, give, give mentality, always thinking.
Yeah.
What problem does my audience have? How can I offer a solution or insight or even just understanding?
Problem-solving focus, especially early on.
Crucial. And they stressed it's not just about the content you put out there. There's another huge piece that lots of creators apparently miss.
Oh, what's that?
It's who you associate with, building a tribe, a community. It's not just broadcasting.
So engaging with others.
Yes, engaging with their content, leaving thoughtful comments, joining conversations. That doesn't just get your name out there. It builds actual relationships.
So it's not just writing and hitting publish.
No. They said they saw tons of creators fail because that's all they did. They were just sending stuff into a void.
Instead of connecting with the humans on the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
Make people feel seen. Make them feel heard. Make them feel like they're part of something.
That community aspect gives context to your content and builds loyalty.
Exactly. It compounds. They shared a story about a creator going to an event and people rushing up, feeling like they already knew them just from those online interactions. That's the power.
That's powerful. Okay, let's switch gears slightly to something that trips people up. The niche. Finding your niche. They had a strong take here.
They did. It's a bit counterintuitive, maybe, their view. Forget finding a market niche. You are the niche.
Okay, unpack that. I am the niche.
It means, yeah, there might be thousands of fitness coaches or philosophy writers or whatever, but there's only one you. With your specific story, your unique set of experiences, your particular way of seeing things.
So my unique blend is the differentiator.
Yes, they called it escaping competition through authenticity. Your unique background is your competitive advantage.
Okay, I get that conceptually.
Yeah.
But when you're starting like 0 followers, don't you need some specificity just so people remember what you're about if you're too broad?
Totally. No, they clarified that. While you are the niche long-term when you're starting out, you do need to be like maniacally specific.
Maniacally specific. Okay.
Yeah, people need a hook to remember you by. Oh, that's the person who helps busy dads learn guitar. Or that's the expert on sustainable urban gardening. You need that initial tag.
So be specific enough at first to be memorable, to build that kind of in wedge.
Exactly. That specificity helps you stand out early on. Then, once people know you for that, you can start to broaden out, bring in more facets of who you are.
Makes sense. Any other tips for picking that initial focus?
Find something you feel playful about. Don't choose it just because it seems like hard work or looks profitable on paper. It needs to genuinely engage you.
Find the fun in it. And even when you get known for that thing, you shouldn't become like a walking textbook.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
People follow people, remember. Not just topics. You got to inject your personality, your observations, maybe even other interests occasionally.
And what holds it all together?
Your story. How did these different interests or areas of expertise actually impact your life? How did they solve your pain points? That's the glue.
Your story connects the dots. Okay, so you've built an audience, you get your unique value. Now, the money part, monetizing. What's the first step they recommend?
Right. Once you have that clarity on who you are and what you offer, their surest bet, they called it, for building something sustainable long-term. Start with booking coaching calls or some kind of consulting.
Coaching calls first. Why not jump straight to building a course or something?
Well, it's not just about the money. initially. Though, yeah, making that first dollar online, huge psychological win.
Sure.
But the main reason is you get paid to learn deeply. By working one-on-one with your first, say, 5 or 10 clients, you get incredible insight into their exact pain points.
And what they'll actually pay to solve.
Exactly. What they're willing to pay for. It's like hyper-focused market research. You see the patterns.
And then you use those patterns to build a product.
Precisely. You take what you learned from those real conversations and figure out, okay, what specific product or service should I create to scale this solution?
Like a mini course or an ebook.
Or templates. The highlighted templates is a great option because you're essentially productizing a process you've already proven works, or your credibility. Like, here's the exact framework I used.
So coaching is kind of a low-friction start. Get paid, learn, validate ideas, all before you sink months into building something bigger.
Exactly. Lets you start today, get some easy wins, as they put it.
Right.
They even mentioned a slightly bolder approach.
Yeah.
Sell the product before it's fully built.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Create the offer, the landing page, set a delivery date, take payments. That payment and deadline create the pressure, the urgency to actually build it.
And it involves your audience right away. Avoids building in a vacuum.
Exactly. Validates demand up front. Takes some nerve, maybe, but smart.
Definitely. Okay, so that covers going from creator to, like, a solo business. But what about scaling beyond that? Building a bigger team and organization. Stan's own journey is relevant here.
Absolutely. Now the focus shifts big time. Team building, managing complexity, and Stan has this, well, audacious goal. Become a billion-dollar company with only 10 engineers.
10 for a billion-dollar tech company. That sounds tiny.
It is, and it comes from their, let's call it a hot take, that most tech companies are bloated, overstaffed.
Interesting.
They believe the leverage you get from code is just immense. You don't need huge teams if you hire the right people. Best-in-class talent, they call it, and you're really intentional.
So quality over quantity, hyper-focus.
Right. They built Stan's current platform, which is pretty feature-rich, with only 8 engineers. It's about efficiency, not just headcount growth, because that's the standard startup playbook.
Wow. Okay, but how do they stay focused? Avoid just adding features constantly because they can, or because some customer asks.
The absolute anchor has to be the customer, always. The trap is falling in love with the technology itself.
Tech for tech's sake.
Yeah. Tech is just a tool. It serves humans. Stan's #1 value, creator first. So they don't just build every feature someone requests. They dig deeper. What's the real pain point behind the request? And they solve that, even if the solution isn't the exact feature asked for.
Like they mentioned avoiding super complex landing page builders.
Exactly, because creators would just get lost and waste time.
Oh.
Better to solve the underlying need, an easy way to showcase offers more simply. It's problem solving, not feature checking.
But filtering that feedback, knowing what the customer truly needs versus just what they say they want, that feels like the tricky part.
It is. They mentioned 2 key things for that. First, you need to have a strong opinion yourself, based on constantly learning about user experience, about what actually works. You can't just be passive.
Develop your own philosophy on good product design.
Right. And second, spend an excessive amount of time directly with customers.
More than just surveys.
Way more. Watching them actually use the product, listening to how they talk about their problems, their struggles, and noticing what they don't say too, the nuances.
That sounds like intense, hands-on research, like doing things that don't scale, but for understanding users.
It totally is. Hard work, but essential to stay grounded in their reality. And this all ties into understanding the core job to be done, the JTBD.
The fundamental reason someone hires your product.
Exactly. For Stan, they define their core job as guaranteeing creators will make more money using Stan than anywhere else. So every feature, every decision gets prioritized against that core job. Does this help creators make more money? Yes or no?
That provides a very clear filter. Okay, lean teams, customer first, solving core jobs. How do you actually find these 10x people they talk about hiring?
Oh, well, first, the timing. They said you'll know when you need to hire because you'll just feel it.
Feel it how?
Like you hit a wall, you're totally overwhelmed, something feels like it's about to break because you personally can't handle it all. That's the signal to start thinking seriously about hiring.
So don't hire just because you think you should. Wait until the pain is real.
Pretty much, yeah. It forces clarity. Then you figure out what job needs doing. The founder's role, they say, is to operate in your zone of genius, your top 1 or 2 most impactful skills.
Okay.
Everything else, all the tasks you dislike or you're not great at, the crud they called it, list it all out. Those are the jobs you hire for first.
Get the crud off your plate, like hiring an executive assistant, maybe.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a common first key hire for a solopreneur.
Yeah.
Frees you up for the high leverage stuff.
Makes sense. And these 10x people, what defines them? What makes them 10x?
They're not just average performers doing one thing well. They have range. They describe it as being T-shaped.
T-shaped.
Deep expertise in one core area, but also broad skills across related areas. Like a designer who also gets marketing copy.
Yeah.
Or a full-stack engineer who understands product strategy.
Versatility and people you learn from.
Definitely. You should feel like you're learning from them.
Yeah.
And critically, they excel at time to value. They get stuff done fast. They go from idea to something live, something functional, incredibly quickly. Hours or days, not weeks or months. They just execute.
Range, you learn from them. Fast execution.
Yeah.
Okay. But where do you actually find people like this? They sound rare.
They are. And usually, opportunities find them. So you have to be proactive. The most reliable way they found, introductions and referrals.
Network, network, network.
Make it a discipline. Constantly ask impressive people you know. Who else do you know who's really sharp? Who do you admire? Build that referral flywheel.
And having a good company offer helps attract them too, presumably.
Hugely. A clear mission, competitive comp, real ownership. That makes it easier over time. At Stan, they focus only on outcomes, not hours clocked. That attracts people who want ownership.
Right. And keeping teams lean helps maintain agility.
Yeah. They reiterated that hiring often happens when you feel dragged into it by necessity. Holding back until then forces you to be really clear about the role.
Okay. So as that lean, high-performing team grows, the organization itself has to change, right? What does scaling actually look like structurally?
They describe scale mainly as this exponential jump in coordination complexity.
Like planning a trip for 5 people versus 50.
Exactly. Simple things suddenly become way more complicated. Communication, alignment, decision-making.
And they saw specific stages or breaking points?
Yeah. From like one founder doing it all to needing constant sync with the co-founder to a small, tight-knit team, then hitting a wall around maybe 50 people where the old ways just don't work anymore. The structure has to change.
What's the big shift that needs to happen then?
Moving away from being founder-centric, where one or two people are the hub for most decisions and direction, to an organization where talented people truly own their own nodes. They own their specific areas, their outcomes. The founder's job shifts from making all the decisions to primarily ensuring everyone is aligned, rowing in the same direction.
That sounds like a tough transition for a founder. Letting go.
They admitted it was painful, but absolutely necessary to unlock the next level of capacity and scale.
And keeping everyone aligned. That sounds like the new core challenge.
It's the hardest thing, they said. As you grow, it's so easy for people to lose sight of the big picture, the why. Information just doesn't flow the same way. It needs deliberate effort.
They had an anecdote about realizing people didn't even know the main company goals.
Yeah, they did a survey and were shocked. Despite leaders talking about goals constantly, the message wasn't landing consistently.
So, any practical tips for fighting that drift?
One thing they do is a weekly all-hands meeting. Leaders constantly reinforce priorities. And a simple, maybe slightly quirky tactic, a pop quiz during the meeting, literally asking the team, what's our core goal? What's the target number? Just to make sure everyone can actually articulate it.
Simple, but effective, forces recall. They also mentioned something about in-person work, potentially controversial these days.
Yeah, they acknowledge the benefits of remote, but strongly feel there's huge value in shared physical space. The ambient stuff.
Water cooler chat, group lunches.
Exactly. Those informal interactions, the serendipitous collisions of ideas, the nuances you pick up, they believe that sparks creativity and builds clarity in ways scheduled Zoom calls struggle to replicate, especially when you're trying to build something new together.
Those unplanned connections, hard to engineer online.
Okay, finally, let's look at Stan's growth after they nailed product market fit. What were the big levers they pulled?
They pointed to 3 main engines, really. First one, distribution.
Getting the product seen.
Right. Realizing that reaching customers effectively was critical. And for their specific audience creators, the best channel was inbound content.
Because that's where creators hang out.
Exactly. Social media, newsletters. So scaling that meant building an internal content team, really doubling down on content marketing everywhere creators spend time. That was unlock number 1 post-fit.
Meet them where they are. Makes sense. Second lever, truly understanding who we are, their unique brand identity and differentiation.
That sounds a bit fuzzy.
Well, it wasn't something they just invented. It emerged over years of doing the work, listening, observing why customers actually connected with them. It became clear their identity was being authentically for creators, by creators.
Well, it's just another tech company.
Right. Deeply caring about creator success, being relatable. That became core, setting them apart from competitors who maybe felt more distant or purely transactional. It was an earned identity.
Okay. And the third engine?
Building the organization itself as an engine. This is that shift we talked about. Moving beyond the founders being the main driver.
So building a system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building a structure that finds, enables, and scales the impact of other talented people. People who might be even better than the founders in specific domains. It's about creating a machine that replicates success and builds something lasting.
And underlying all three of those seems to be consistency again.
Absolutely. Stan's growth wasn't flashy overnight hacks. It was remarkable consistency and, interestingly, selectivity. They stuck with creator partnerships and content marketing for years.
Didn't chase every shiny object.
Right. They resisted jumping onto every new platform or tactic before really mastering what was working. Giving strategies time to actually mature and bear fruit, that patience seems vital.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, we've covered a huge amount of ground, haven't we?
We really have. From, like, the absolute basics of just starting as a creator today.
That permissionless opportunity, finding your value.
To the craft of making content that actually connects, making it tangible, using stories.
And the crucial bit about building a tribe, not just broadcasting.
Navigating that whole niche question by realizing you are the niche, but starting specific.
Practical steps to monetize, starting with those insight-gathering coaching calls.
And shifting into scaling a business, hiring those amazing 10X people, managing the complexity.
And keeping everyone aligned as you grow.
And we saw it through the lens of Stan's journey, their lean approach, that intense customer focus.
Solving the core job to be done.
And those key growth levers. Distribution, identity, and building the organizational engine.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. That final thought they left us with, it kind of ties everything together. It doesn't matter if you're starting out or scaling up.
Yeah, that idea that maybe the only thing that truly matters is persistence.
Just persisting, showing up day after day, never giving up.
Regardless of the exact strategy or the tactics or all the noise online.
Yeah.
That seems to be the one common denominator they see in everyone who achieves something significant.
It's not about the perfect plan, maybe, but just the relentless consistency of execution, the resilience.
Exactly. Just keep going.
So thinking about all this, creating, scaling, persisting, what does this deep dive mean for your next step?